Woman is creatively designed to follow, and her partner's love and understanding are essential if she's to follow well. So, why are we starting with a follower instead of the leader? Well, because without her, he's got no hope of becoming all that he could be. It isn't good for the man to be alone, remember? And you can't be a leader if no one's willing to follow you. But isn't she where things went so wrong in the beginning? Yep, and that's exactly why we're starting with her. Hello, I'm Dr. Debbie, and I've been helping men, women, and couples grow together for more than 25 years. Now it's your turn to learn what I learned and taught as a couples counselor and university professor. You are the wise woman, and this is your personal development podcast packed with instant encouragement and practical tips. And men can learn about women too, because this is a safe place where women are valued and men are respected. We talk about biology, socialization, behavior, emotions, communication, and connection, because men and women are different. Always have been, always will be, and that's a very good thing. Psychologists have not been able to explain women to men. Remember Dr. Sigmund Freud? Despite all his work with women and exploring the possibilities of a talking cure, rumor has it that he died still wondering what women want. Actually, we're not that complicated. But poor Siggy didn't have anyone to translate for him. Now you're going to get the inside scoop. In the next few lessons, I'll share with you what a woman wants and needs from a man that will invest her with an absolutely irresistible desire to follow him. Now, how cool is that? Most of us believe that women are more complicated than men, but we're not nearly as complicated as we may seem. In fact, most problems men have with women can be solved using a minimum of words and energy. Really? That's a relief. You see, the problem is how you see the problem. And the problem you think you see is probably not the problem at all. Women have just been taught to communicate in a very different way than men were. Our sex is actually required to communicate in a secret code. That is, going around in circles, using too many words, and never seeming to get to the point. All she needs is your understanding and love. And all you really need to understand is that she's not a guy, she's a girl. And love her simply because of who she is. I'm going to break down the code for you so you can figure out what she needs and what she wants. Because this week's lessons are written for men, it'll be brief. Guys like to get to the point. I love that about them. Women are simple. Now, that's an overstatement, of course. However, we're not nearly so complicated as we usually seem, especially to men. However, women are different from men by our very nature. It's how we were created. And men actually prefer that, yes? In fact, guys, there's no one you would rather dance through life with than a girl. However, the very things that draw you to her are the very things that you find confusing. You've probably wondered with Professor Henry Higgins from My Fair Lady, why can't a woman be more like a man? But that's not really what you want. You love the fact that she's emotionally sensitive and not as big or as strong as you are. But you're also confused that so much depends on how she feels. And she feels a lot. And she can talk forever and ever and ever and never get to the point. She looks to you to solve problems for her. Sometimes. But just as often, she can get really angry when you try to solve her problems, especially if her feelings are involved. Sheesh. Another thing that you probably don't realize is just how differently she's been treated her entire life, just because she's female. From the moment her parents found out she was a girl, she's been viewed as sweet and delicate. For example, as a toddler, she got picked on by another child at the park, and her mom or dad moved in quickly to intervene. She was given lots of comfort, understanding, hugs and kisses, and reassurance that she was cared for. Her tears meant something, helping her communicate that something was wrong. She had verifiable evidence that she mattered. Childhood was a very different experience for her than it was for you. She was probably trained to be a pleaser. At the very least, she learned that nice girls never come right out and ask for what they want, that they take turns, and that they must always consider how other people might be feeling. So she learned to use a very tentative language, which now to you seems vague at best and just plain crazy-making at its worst. She knew another girl was her best friend because they shared secrets with one another, unlike your childhood friendships that focused on shared activities among a whole gang of guys. 2 by 2 proved the best pattern for her. Add a third girl to the equation, and it was an emotional disaster waiting to happen. Sounds weird, huh? As if the tearfulness and the vagueness and the secret sharing aren't enough, the differences between male and female communication are extensive. You wouldn't think the same English words would hold such different meanings for two people brought up in the same culture, but they do. For example, take Sean and Nicole. They decided to take a day trip from Newport Beach to Solvang one Saturday. They had been on the road for a couple of hours when Nicole said, "Do you want to stop and get something to eat?" "No," Sean replied and kept driving. Nicole's feelings were immediately hurt. But why? She asked him if he wanted to stop, and he merely answered her question. What's the problem with that? The problem was that he hadn't answered the question she was really asking. If he knew the secret code, he would have known that what she said was her tentative or feminine way of saying that she was hungry and asking him if he would stop for her. He would have known to counter with, "Sure, we can if you'd like. Are you hungry?" Women may be tentative because they fear being labeled as needy, which is not a compliment. Yet another reason is that we want to please you first and foremost, which is the honest explanation for our seemingly wishy-washy reply to your question, "Where do you want to go for dinner?" When she says, "I don't care, wherever you want to go is fine with me," she's just trying not to sound demanding, and she's trying to please you, which actually has the opposite effect. And yes, I'm going to tell the women to stop doing that to you. In some, she's different from you in that so much depends on how she feels. She values conversation for conversation's sake, and much of her esteem depends on what she thinks you think of her. Yes, your opinion actually matters more than anything. She was raised to be a pleaser, and you're the one person she wants to please the most. And if you're like most men, you would like to make her happy, if you only knew how. But she unknowingly sets you up to fail by not being specific enough. We're going to work on that one for you too, I promise. But first, let's talk about what she wants from you. Women aren't nearly as complicated as men think they are. Honestly, pretty much everything she struggles with in your relationship, even as she would confess, fits into one of the following 3 categories. 1, I'm not that important to you. 2, you don't think I'm attractive. And 3, you don't value my feelings. As promised, this will be a short lesson, filled with bullet points and what-to-dos. You'll get enough detail to get the idea. If it's not enough, please let me know. I'll be happy to elaborate. Bullet point number 1, love and cherish her. Make her your top priority. The first thing a woman wants is to know that she's more precious to you than anything else. No, she doesn't want to run your life. She wants to know, by the reliability of your words and your actions, that she's always at the top. You probably don't realize just how important your opinion is to her. Despite how it may seem, much of her self-esteem depends on what she thinks you think of her. Not what you actually think of her, but what she thinks you think of her. And she makes that determination based on your behavior, all you choose to do or choose not to do in regard to her. The good news is that making her your top priority and cherishing her is actually much simpler than you realize, and it's something you already have a natural desire to do. Be her hero. All men love to be heroes. It comes naturally to you to behave like a knight in shining armor to every woman you meet. The little lady who can't reach the last can of Who Hash on the top shelf at the market, the gal with a flat tire who can't figure out the air machine at the gas station, even to your grandmother. But as a romantic partner, you may have forgotten the importance of being gallant, chivalrous, courteous, polite, gentlemanly, thoughtful, gracious, suave toward her, especially if it seems like she doesn't appreciate you. I promise to work with her on this one for you too. So, if you want her to follow your lead, the first thing you'll need to do will be to put forth extra effort in helping her realize that you are first and foremost her knight, and that she is the one lady that you cherish above all others. I can't emphasize this enough. This part is absolutely crucial if she is, or you ever want her to be, your wife and lover. If you haven't been gallant for a while, there's no way you can go into this expecting an immediate payoff. Winning her trust will take some time. That is, you'll need to convince her that you're treating her well just because you love her, and that you're not trying to get something in return, like sex. Whatever you do, remember that it's simply your gift to her. Then be sure to act accordingly. Be encouraged. Sex is essential for both of you. We'll be talking about why later on. So, where to begin? Every girl knows that a hero does simple, everyday things to make you feel special. He opens the door for you and allows you to enter a room first. He pulls out a chair for you at the table. When you go to a restaurant, even if it's only the Subway sandwich shop, he asks what you would like. Then he places your order for you, saying, "The lady will have," and then adding his own order last. Very sweet and very, very irresistible. He makes eye contact when you're talking, which clearly communicates that all he cares about at this moment is you. He looks into your eyes and derives great pleasure in just seeing you looking back at him. He gives you a hug, not because he wants sex, but because he finds you so adorable. And if he wants to take it over the top, he'll ask you to dance with him. There are so many ways you can help keep your relationship alive and well through fun and friendship. So be creative. But honestly, guys, dancing is the absolute best. Even if you have two left feet, she will love you for your honest efforts. So why not give it a try? 7 top clues that she needs to know by your actions she's loved and cherished. Number 1, she says she wished you still fill in the blank. Talked to one another, held hands, had fun together. Number 2, she complains that you never take her out anymore. Number 3, she stops getting gussied up. That means getting dressed up or fancy. Number 4, you know you treat her differently than you used to. Number 5, you spend more time doing stuff without her than doing stuff with her. Number 6, you haven't taken her anywhere that would give her an excuse to get gussied up in more than 6 months. Number 7, you haven't felt like a knight in shining armor since, well, you just can't remember when. Be on the lookout for more clues that she's missing her own knight in shining armor. And if you're not sure, start being gallant anyway. Who says you need a clue to do that? Bullet point number 2. Tell her she's pretty. Women spend a lot of time, energy, and money trying to look just as pretty as they can. And as she gets older, she'll start doubting that she could still be attractive to the opposite sex. If she's already yours, or if you want her to be yours, you won't want some other guy beating your time. So tell her yourself that she's pretty or cute on a daily basis. Of course, you must be absolutely positively sincere about what you say. Flattery is cheap and meaningless, and she'll see right through it. Don't go there. Trust me. It's simply not worth the price. 7 top clues that tell you she's unsure she's still attractive to you. Number 1, you never ask her to dance. Number 2, you don't tell her she's pretty or cute. Number 3, you don't look into her eyes when she's talking. Number 4, you don't look at her longingly as you once did. Number 5, she says, "Notice anything new?" and you don't. Number 6, she complains that you look at other women. Number 7, you haven't asked her out on a date since, well, you just can't remember when. Be on the lookout for more clues that she's questioning her attractiveness. Then pay her a sincere compliment each and every day. But who says you need a clue to do that? Bullet point number 3, just say you're sorry. A woman's feelings can get hurt very easily, especially by the man she loves. Her feelings are important, and she needs you to appreciate that about her. In fact, feelings are primary for most women. When our feelings get hurt, we go into defensive mode, and everyone knows the best defense is a good offense. So we often look and sound angry when in fact, our feelings have been hurt. At that point, we'll either withdraw or attack, depending on our emotional attachment style. Hurting her feelings is tantamount to crushing her spirit. Nothing good can happen until her spirit has been revived. When you learn how to help her with that, you'll reap rewards beyond your wildest dreams. And it only takes 3 steps. First, notice that you hurt her feelings. That means you have to be paying attention, right? Second, say I'm sorry, or I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. Say nothing more, say nothing less. Finally, if she's angry and or yelling at you, you'll need to say it at a distance. If she's crying, move in close and hold her hand or put your arm around her. Or if you're not physically present, you can tell her you wish you were there to hold her hand or to put your arm around her. That works almost as well because this is one of those cases where it's mostly the thought that counts. This concept is so simple, yet often so very difficult for you guys to grasp. So much so that I frequently spend an entire couples coaching session explaining to a man who objects to the apology on the grounds that he's done nothing wrong. The story goes like this. She fixes his favorite dinner as a special surprise for him one evening. He gets tied up at work and doesn't call to say he'll be later than usual. When he arrives home, he doesn't notice anything special. He hurts her feelings. She's noticeably upset and may even use words to tell him so, which may sound to him like attacking, criticizing, or blaming. He tries to explain what happened, thinking this will make her less upset. However, she hears his words as defensiveness, that he's making excuses and trying to minimize the impact of his actions on her feelings. It's really simple, guys. Her feelings were hurt by you. She understands that sometimes you get tied up at your job, and she knows that it can be hard for you to call when you're dealing with a crisis at work. That's not what she needs you to apologize for. Not even close. She only needs you to apologize for hurting her feelings. Here are 3 bullet points for clarification. Number 1, you are only apologizing for hurting her feelings, which you did do, whether you meant to or not. Number 2, she's the only one who knows when she's hurt, so never say I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. It's tantamount to telling her she's crazy, and despite what you might think, she's not crazy. She's a girl. Number 3, you are not apologizing for staying late at work. When I explain this to a man during a coaching session, he invariably looks at his partner and says, "Really? That's all you want? That would work?" She says, "Yes, that's all I want." And then he doesn't believe either one of us until he gives it a try. For once, she's actually telling him specifically what she needs from him in a given moment. If he's wise, he'll listen and give it his honest effort. To ensure you don't miss this very important part of the equation, as you're telling her you're sorry, remember, anger equals away, as in keep your distance. Tears equals touch, as in get close enough to comfort her. Now, I'm going to give you a little bonus tip here. If you want to win some extra points, here's what you do. If your woman is having a bad day, take her hands in yours and pray for her out loud. Speak words of blessing over her, using scripture to remind her just how much the Lord loves her. It will be a life-changing moment for you both. The issue of women and anger is a very confusing one for a lot of men. Yes, I just said anger. I know the title of this lesson is Women and Anxiety, but when a man sees his woman upset, all he can tell for sure is that she's angry. After all, that's exactly what he sees and hears and feels. Typically, he doesn't think to look past her anger for what might be lurking beneath the surface. Most of the time, what looks like intense anger is actually panic. A woman often freaks out when her man freezes up. She's probably thinking, "You're not listening to what I'm saying. You just don't get how much this means to me. You don't have any respect for me or my feelings. You don't care. She feels like she's drowning and that her man doesn't care that she's drowning. He could be her rescuer if he only knew that's what was going on, but he doesn't. So he ends up feeling like he's drowning himself, caught up in the swirling intensity of her emotions. That is, he may feel very much like someone who's trying to save a drowning person and ends up being pulled under the water himself by the panic of the very person he's trying to rescue. That's really what's going on in those moments. I know it's next to impossible, when you're the victim of a woman's verbal attack, to think she's afraid of something. It wouldn't be any man's first thought, but more than likely, she's not merely angry. When you can recognize her fear and think about finding out why she's afraid, it could be a very, very helpful thought to have. A woman also has a really hard time when her man is angry, and it really doesn't matter if he's angry at her or at something else. Even if he's feeling generally frustrated with life, his behavior can evoke anxiety in her. It's really very, very scary for a woman to be around an angry man. If she's your woman, her immediate thought is, "What's wrong? Did I do something? Why are you so mad at me?" Yes, it could be the other drivers who are frustrating you, or it could be something at work. Maybe you don't feel well, or whatever. But if it comes across as anger, your woman will still become terrified. When women are terrified, they come across as angry. And when men are angry, it terrifies women. So we end up with a vicious cycle of anxiety and negative interactions. The truth about women and anxiety? Well, the vast majority of women deal with anxiety on a daily basis. We're anxious about a lot of things, especially when it comes to men. Here are a few examples that apply to most women. Her physical safety. Just ask her, when was the last time you were afraid for your physical safety? You'll probably be surprised by her answer. More than likely, it was sometime within the last 24 hours. Women constantly scan the environment for danger, especially if they have to be out after dark without you for protection. We look for danger so automatically that we can't imagine that you men don't do the same. We don't realize that you're confident you can protect yourself if you need to do so. However, we must plan our defense, which usually involves escape and/or calling for help. What about displeasing you? Women are taught from early childhood to be pleasers, something that intensifies with the onset of that wonderful phenomenon known as puberty, mostly because we've been led to believe that there is a verifiable shortage of desirable men. Historically, that has been true, and it feels even more true to a woman who is unsure of herself to begin with. We fear if we're displeasing, you'll reject or abandon us. Sometimes a woman may appear overly confident, but that actually may be her fear in disguise, and it can come across as she doesn't really care about me. When in doubt, assume that she fears displeasing you. What about feeling unimportant? For the longest time, the most popular post on my Psychology of Men blog was, "Why do men stonewall?" Stonewalling is withdrawing or refusing to respond to your partner. For you, it may be a response to your own confusion or to feeling overwhelmed when she's upset. Or you may just try to stay calm in the hope that she will also calm down. However, when you stay calm, it feels like you're just being non-responsive to her, which only serves to make her even more anxious. The message your nonverbal behavior sends is that you simply don't care that she's upset. In reality, it's counterproductive and actually will increase her anxiety and frustration, propelling you both into the same negative cycle that you are trying so hard to avoid. It goes something like this, doesn't it? She begins a conversation with something that sounds harsh, something that feels like it came out of the blue. She's actually tapping on the door, trying to make contact with you. When you fail to respond, she assumes you didn't hear her, so she talks a little louder. Now she's knocking on the door, wondering if you're even in there. Your heart races as you think, "Here we go again, this is not going to be good." You try even harder to remain calm, hoping that she'll settle down. You might even try talking firmly or logically to try to calm her, which only feels condescending to her. Shaming is not exactly sending her the message that she can depend on you to be there for her when she needs you. If she wasn't angry before this, she is now. Her feelings are seriously hurt. She's in defensive mode. Now she's coming through the door with a 2-ton wrecking ball, and she's determined that you will hear her out. To you, she's in some sort of crazy rage, and you may begin to wonder if she has serious mental health issues. So you'll have a difficult time realizing that underneath her anger is a huge backlog of fear. She may have a difficult time recalling her original feelings too. However, your best bet is always that she started the whole conversation at least a little worried that her concerns would be totally unimportant to you, based on verifiable evidence from any stone walls that you've erected previously. I have to tell you that I really do understand why you guys do this so often and so automatically. It makes total sense to me, and I do my best to educate the gals about how their emotions impact you. However, you must understand what happens for her as well. Basically, when a woman is emotionally flooded and her partner shuts down during a disagreement, she's most likely to say she feels abandoned, blown off, dismissed, frustrated, isolated, lonely, pushed away, rejected, shut out, undesirable, unloved, and/or unwanted. Well, that wasn't what you were going for, right? You only wanted her to be reasonable, to stop making such a big issue out of whatever it was, or at least not to attack, blame, or criticize you in the process. There is hope for redirecting the scenario, and the best place to start is with bullet point number 3 about what to do when you hurt her feelings. If it happens a lot, you might want to find a good couples coach, one who gets where you're coming from, as well as her position. The bottom line, without a doubt, this isn't a comprehensive explanation of all women, or even of your woman. But if you apply these basic principles in your relationship, you will see a change. Remember, she may not trust you at first. In fact, you can count on at least some skepticism. If things have been rocky for a while, she may wonder what's happening at best and suspect you're trying to manipulate her or that you're up to no good at the worst. Just remember that a woman often worries about her physical safety as well as whether or not she is displeasing and/or unimportant to the man she loves. Thank you for listening to this episode of A Wise Woman's Guide to Men and Marriage. What did you think? Did the information raise more questions? Do you want to learn more? Head over to wisewomansguide.com for show notes and links to the resources mentioned in this episode. And if you're looking for other wise women to bounce around ideas and ask questions, be sure to join my exclusive community for women on Facebook. The link is waiting for you at awisewomansguide.com.